Well, a very, very happy Tuesday and welcome to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Today is May 26th of 2026. Hope everyone had themselves a good Memorial Day weekend, 3-day weekend that was really consumed by rain, uh, probably not adequate weather, but for those who maybe enjoyed their time at the pool or went out to the Indy 500 or to the Reds game. Hope you guys enjoyed yourself. Well, we're beginning another week here on the Sports Conversations. A lot to get to, a lot to cover over this past 3-day weekend. We'll talk a lot about WWE Clash of Italy coming your way here on Sunday. Usually our PLEs for WWE has been taking place on Saturday, but this one's transitioned into a Sunday event, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's how you can watch it on ESPN Unlimited. A lot of great matches going on, so we'll get you the match card and talk about what took place last night on Raw. We'll also talk about the recap of Saturday night main event that took place on Saturday. That a lot of things kind of transpired, so we'll have to get into those conversations. The Reds split the series against the Cardinals on over the weekend, and they had a very good game on last night against the Mets. And so we'll talk about that, get you caught up on the news of sports world over the weekend. I want to start things off though with Saturday night main event that took place this past weekend. We saw a handful of matches. This is one thing that I can respect about Saturday night main event. And I hope that the WWE focuses its attention on this dynamic. Over the weekend, we saw a lot of the minor mid card championships be defended. We saw the World Tag Team titles being defended. We saw the Women's Tag Team titles being defended. Now, the Women's Intercontinental Championship was not defended, but Becky Lynch was still in a match. And I appreciate highlighting the mid to low card titles and make I call a Saturday night main event a PLE, but make these events where you can showcase and focus on the importance of these titles. They deserve the same amount of respect as the main titles that you see on Raw and performing at the larger PLEs, such as Clash in Italy this weekend. Excuse me. So I appreciate the concept, and I don't know if this was something the WWE did intentionally, or if this is something that they needed these titles to be highlighted right now, and that was the moment to do so. But just an idea moving forward, if it hasn't already been thought about. Whenever you have, maybe this is the reason why we should have Saturday night main events more often, so that as the main cards on the main PLEs that we see on a monthly basis have those WWE titles, have those World Heavyweight Championships, or have those, you know, top tier exclusive matches like we will see this weekend, we can still showcase and keep the storylines progressing among the tag team titles, among the intercontinental championships, the United States championships, the ones that aren't getting enough attention. So, uh, that's one thing that I thought was unique about Saturday Night Main Event is that your top match, your top superstar in performance on Saturday was Penta. If not, it was even on the woman's side where when you have the 6-woman tag match between Rhea, Charlotte, and Alexa taking on Jade and Machine and BFAP. So kind of let's kind of just pay you the visit of what took on Saturday night. There was already only 4 matches. We saw Sol Ruka, who defeated Becky Lynch. It was a non-title match via disqualification. Becky Lynch pulls the referee in the way as Sol Ruka was going for the Soul Snatcher, and they're forcing the referee to disqualify her. Penta successfully defeats Ethan Page to defend his WWE Intercontinental Championship. You also see Page and Brie Bella retaining their women's tag team championships against Lash Legend and Nia Jax. And then we saw the Vision, Austin Theory and Logan Paul, defeat and retain their World Tag Team Championships from the Street Profits. That match included a lot of outside of interference. Seth Rollins gets involved. Braun Breaker gets involved. And overall, the 4 matches that we saw on Saturday night were really good matches. They were solid matches. Sol Ruka, after her win and by her performance, ends up earning herself a title match this coming up Saturday. Nick Aldis approaches Becky Lynch backstage and informs Becky that with what took place out in the ring is going to carry over in a title opportunity, as Sol Ruka will get her chance against Becky Lynch for the Women's Intercontinental Championship at Clash in Italy this coming up Sunday. And when you look at all the upcoming stars from NXT to the WWE, there's a few that's really made a lot of heat waves. Now, earlier this year, we've seen the list of the talents that came up back in January. We've seen, Trick Williams been very impressive here as of late. We've seen Javon Evans, who's been very impressive here as of late. And then, definitely an Obafemi. So the talent that are being called up to the main roster has been showing up and performing. Sol Ruka, who was called up from NXT after WrestleMania a couple months ago, has also been highlighted at the point to be getting notice. And as she has worked her way through her in-ring ability and skill set to get herself a title match, which I don't care whether she wins or loses, but to me, for one, hard work does pay off. That's a clear indication in this. You also have the fact that Becky Lynch went through this skit heading into WrestleMania, where she ends up losing her title, only to win it back the next month. And we're trying to find these upcoming talents that can really push to the limit, and Becky Lynch is filling in those big shoes. And so that's added on to the Saturday Night Main Events card. The also other big news out of Saturday Night Main Event has to be the injury to Logan Paul. It was reported that Logan Paul suffered a torn tricep during Saturday Night Main Event, will be out indefinitely as he recovers. And now the Vision is kind of up in a limbo. And I just think this kind of sucks, if you ask me. The Vision, ever since the creation, from Seth Rollins to Braun Breaker to Bronson Reed, they just don't seem to catch a break, right? And this vision is supposed to be a, a necessity, a group of men or a talent that it's about the future stars of today, right? These are talent that we can expect to see to carry over into main event WrestleMania and to be at the top of the card in the next 5, 6, 7 years down the road, when everyone who's currently up there is kind of being washed out, washed away. And it's important that this group gains momentum. I've been talking about this for weeks on end. The momentum of winning tag gold, which was the tag team titles. I thought that was great. Maintaining that dominance, extending that further by annihilating, whoever is in front of them. Right now, over the last few weeks, they've been dealing with Seth Rollins, who's been a thorn on their side, the Street Profits, Joe Hendry, and yet they get put to a halt, not because of their opponents, but because of their own injuries. Now, hey, it's professional wrestling. This is injuries happen. So this isn't new. This isn't out of the water, but it just sucks because the momentum for Austin Theory and Logan Paul, the tag team titles, get kind of pulled back a little bit. Things have to get reshuffled and readjusted with the vision in order to continue with their success. And last night on Raw, Paul Heyman talks to Austin Theory about the next steps and indicates that, look, this is a group title. So when the contract that they have for the World Tag Team titles is not just with Logan Paul and Austin Theory, it's with the entire group, which then makes Braun Breaker available unless they inherit a new incomer to the group. So this means that um, this honestly, to me, this means that Braun Breaker is going to take over Logan Paul's position, which I'm fine with. But any forward progress of defending the titles, of um, having a singles run, being more independently sounded, that's going to kind of come into the mix that we will learn in the near future. So for me, this is a temporary solution, right? I don't know how long you want Austin Theory and Braun Breaker to run with the titles, and it would make a lot more sense if Bronson Reed was back, where you could have Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker have those titles because it is a group thing, but it stops the forward momentum for Braun Breaker, pushing forward as a singles competitor, as a individual athlete, having to now just strictly focus on this tag team titles. Now, over the next few weeks, we may see the WWE take a shift, change hands on these titles, let them focus on that. The other thing I noticed was from last night is that I feel like now, since Braun Breaker is at the side of Austin Theory and they're going to have to work together, this pushes Austin Theory to kind of step up and present a little bit more of an aggressive, more powerful persona that he has had in since his return. And I don't know if that's going to be the better of the group or is going to be the fall of the group, but still, it just seems like the vision just cannot catch a break out of all of this. But that was Saturday night main event. I thought it was a pretty good show. And I guess we'll have to, a lot of it push forward. I love that. Love to see the women's IC title this Saturday. We'll talk about that match card here later in the program. I also like to um, talk about what happened on Raw, but we'll get to there here a little bit later on. All right. So the Cincinnati Reds had a very important weekend. They're coming back home against the Phillies, which was, and they took the series against Philadelphia. So you had a little bit of encouragement going into this weekend where you're facing a division rival. You're facing this young St. Louis Cardinals team playing really good baseball, right there in the mix with everyone else in the NL Central. And we had an opportunity, right? Fireworks Friday, you had a Key Brian Hayes on Saturday, and then you had a military veterans appreciation on Sunday, accordance to Memorial Day, which was yesterday. And so the stage was set. Okay, we're not playing well with our division. We just won a series. Gino Suarez came back. Okay, and we have the opportunity to take another series and just continue that progress, right? The big question I threw out there was the Reds played really good baseball with Gino on the bench or in the lineup, whatever you prefer. The fact that he was activated on the roster, we were playing top tier baseball. We were leading the division. We were in first place. We were in a comfortable spot. Gets injured. He goes out, and we start losing. So now we're not going to be able to determine this right away, but now we ask ourselves, well, if when Gino comes back in the lineup, do we start having success again? And it all started back last week when I asked the question, the how important is a Eugenio Suarez in the lineup for the Cincinnati Reds? He doesn't necessarily have to be performing, hitting 30 home runs, getting on base all the time. He doesn't need to have 4 for 4 days every outing, but just his presence in the lineup is going to mean a lot. And we're getting that clear image. Well, the weather kind of prevented us to see the true reality over the weekend. We did lose. It was rained out on Friday, which means we rolled over until Saturday, something that I speculated was the uniform change. On Fridays, it's been tradition that the Reds wear their black on black old City Connect uniforms. They didn't. On the first game that was supposed to be played Friday, but played at 1 o'clock on Saturday, the Reds wore their red alternatives, followed by their white pants. Well, they did lose 8-1. Chris Paddock was out there. He pitched 5 innings. He gave up 7 hits and gave up 3 runs, 3 walks, and 5 strikeouts. Cardinals win 8-1. Suarez was in that lineup. He went 0 for 2 and he walked. Okay. We get into later in the evening. It's Key Brian Hayes bobblehead. We'll talk about that in a moment. And they wear their red on red pinstripe, the new City Connect uniforms, which I have enjoyed a little bit more, especially when I can distinctly tell with the because I remember at the beginning I couldn't tell you. So the red pinstripes, it's a red vested pinstripes uniform, and then it's a solid red down the sleeve of the uniform, and I couldn't tell that at first. Maybe my eyes are just getting older, and I need a new prescription glasses, which I am due for one. But despite that, the Reds very into it. Chase Petty was out there, 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout, allowed 1 home run. Gino, yeah, he came in and pitched hit for Nathaniel Lowe, and it was a tie ball game heading into the extra innings. I was for a moment kind of biting my teeth, saying, "All right, here we go. We're going to give it up. Our bullpen's going to fail us again." Well, it was Blake Dunn who ends up reaching base on a fielder's choice out to shortstop, scoring in Spencer Steer in the bottom of the 11th inning. And the Reds go on to beat the Cardinals' final score 7-6. And then Sunday was rained out. The weather just was not going to be permitted. So over the weekend, we only saw 3 at-bats from Suarez. Not a big impact, kind of easing him in. But then we also saw, um, a split 1-1 series. Now, that Sunday game that's going to be made up is going to be postponed out to August 17th. That is a Monday and will be a doubleheader. It begins as it's the beginning of a 4-game series. And so this far, can't really complain, right? Gino's back in the lineup. We took one, we lost one. Nathaniel Lowe had 2 home runs over that on Saturday. Ellie De La Cruz had a home run. So you're feeling pretty good about the Reds. Okay, they just took the series. Now we head into Memorial Day. We're headed out to New York to face the Mets, who aren't really playing so well. And so we have the opportunity to also pick up a victory. Early on, we got out to an early lead on Memorial Day. Nick Lodolo had probably one of his best outings this season since coming back from his blistered finger. He went 6 innings, giving up 6 hits, 1 run. He didn't walk a batter. He struck out 7 batters. He allowed 1 home run. JJ Bleday, Tyler Stevenson, they got out to an early lead. And so don't you just love when ball clubs can get out to an early lead, force your opponent to go into the bullpen early on? I mean, that was fun, right? Gino Suarez on that hand, he went 2 for 3. He scored in 2 runs, walked at some point in the game. The Reds beat the Mets 7-2. First of a 3-game series. And so all we really need is a little bit of I'm gonna say fairy dust, right? Something to get us going a little bit. And we're still associated to the disastrous beginning of the month of May. Well, let's realize that in the back end of the month of May, playing we're 6 for 4 out of the last 10 games. If there's any indication there, we're not necessarily in a slump. We're getting back on the track. And I'm not saying that our problems are fixed, because they're not fixed. Okay. We still have that issue. But what we're seeing is with Suarez coming back, we just reactivated Caleb Ferguson, who was out on the IL all year. Now, we haven't seen him play yet. I thought yesterday was a perfect, opportunity to get him in a game where there was no pressure heading into the 9th inning, having a 4, 5, 6 run lead. But I guess we're going to wait for a better day. We're going to eventually work in Caleb Ferguson in that rotation in the bullpen. But we did pick up a victory. We took one. We'll head into game 2 this evening, 7:15, and it's just things like this that you kind of look forward to. But let's go back to the beginning of the weekend. And I'll say that because the conversation all started with Gino coming up. And one of the biggest question was who's going to who's being sent down. There was a lot of players that was being speculated. And then it kind of took us by surprise when we learned that Key Brian Hayes was placed on the 10, 15-day IL due to a low back injury dated back to the 21st of May. Okay, that was last Thursday. It's just ironic. I think, he was still with the team on Saturday for his bobblehead doll giveaway. But if you wanted to look at a blessing in disguise, okay, and I put an article on Facebook that you guys could read, but the Cincinnati Reds has gone through 19 third basemen since 2021, back when Gino was a third baseman with the organization. Okay. This was before he got traded. So in 2021, Suarez was our third baseman. He didn't have a great year. He was released. And since then, we've gone through another 18, including a couple of bad decisions I can honestly say the Cincinnati Reds have taken. Jameer Candelario, who we thought was a good deal. Maybe, like I said, the emphasis is a change of scenery, but he didn't turn out. We ended up eating a lot of his contract and released him. Matter of fact, the Angels picked him up earlier this offseason, released him during the series that they came into Great American Ballpark back in April. Key Brian Hayes, I hate to be someone who gives up on a player or a foundation. We understood that we picked up Brian Hayes from Pittsburgh, not because of his at bat. We were hoping that turned around, but we didn't do it for his offense. We did it for his defensive skills at third base. This is the reason why he won a gold glove. And so you ask yourself, and I know I ask myself here, we're kind of all hell bent on saying all 9 guys, since we got rid of the pitcher hitting in that lineup every night, we have been hell bent for all 9 players on the field to be able to have a 250, 270 plus batting average and supporting the team. And yes, you know what? Successful teams do have all 9 players. But where does that, for me, I'm focused on replacing that. Where's that one guy on your roster that can contribute defensively that you don't really care? He'll bat 9th, he'll bat 8th. You don't really care his performance as long as he's contributing somewhere on the field. Well, I think that the initial position would probably go to the catcher. If you ask me, I say, your catchers could bat 8th or 9th in that lineup. I wouldn't care about how they hit as long as they're calling good ball games on the field. Have them focus on the defensive aspect, right? But so far, our catchers aren't half as bad, right? So can we allow that to be replaced somewhere else on the field? And quite frankly, we have too many players right now that struggle offensively to designate one position. Now, I think this would be a completely different story if Brian Hayes was the only person batting under 200 and everyone else was at least 230, 250 or better. But that's not the case. The Cincinnati Reds ain't going to just let him go. We have a contract going out through the next, 3-4 seasons. And like I said, we called it. It's a little blessing in disguise, ironically, that he gets placed on the IL. He's going to head out to Arizona. He's going to have this long rehab. Probably won't see him for the rest of the year, and I wouldn't mind that under the circumstances that hopefully he does get better, because that would be the only hope for this organization, is that he gets better. There's no doubt about it that we are going to have him. And we got to stop eating up contracts and paying them outright for the next several years. We finally, just 2 years ago, got done paying King Griffey Jr. We were still paying other ball players to play against us throughout the course of the season, Jameer earlier this year. So it bums me to see Brian Hayes on the IL. I like the kid. I think he's a great defensive player. I understand just as much as he's been dealing with this back injury. I've had my fair share of back injuries. I'm still going through one myself. Don't trust me. It's not fun. I don't wish it among anybody. Once you have back injuries, everything else starts going. But it provided a perfect opportunity, for Gino to come up. Now, it gives the Reds a little bit more time to figure out what's happening with the organization. What's the next move? Okay, and I don't want the Reds to jump in irrationally to make the next move. But now we got to figure out, TJ Friedel not really performing well. Blake Dunn almost certainly replacing him out there in the outfield. What do we do to that left-handed position? Austin Hendricks just got called up to AAA over the weekend. And so, I don't know. It's still nice, though, that we could pick up wins and still contend. Here's the conversation that I wanted to also present here, because this was the broadcasting focus points over the weekend and in yesterday's actions. So let me start off with over the weekend. It's the divisional game. We were 1-9 going into the Cardinals game over the weekend. We only played 2 out of the 3, and we won 1, lost 1. So we're 2-10 against divisional opponents. That's under 200 in the win average. Not good. We got 40 games left throughout this year, and we have to at least make up 8 of those games in order to get back to 500. Now, those 40 games, not necessarily saying that it's going to make a break, but we're already here over a third of the way of the season. We've only played 12 of the 52 games in our division. We have 109 games remaining. That's almost half. That's about just under 40% of the remaining games we have left, and half of about what 38-ish percent that we have to play against our division, and we're 2-10. There's going to be some series where we know we're just not going to win, but if you emphasize the importance of winning a division and it starts here. You emphasize on wanting to contend for a wild card. Well, we played already a third of our games away from our division, and look where our results have lied. So something's going to have to happen, and it honestly starts next week. And as we open the month of June against Kansas City, we go out to St. Louis next weekend in a 3-game series. And then in June, I think we see Milwaukee twice. So over the weekend, the emphasis of a 2-10 record this far versus division opponents compared to how many games are left to be played, we have to take notes. We have to change something in that narrative to start turning things around. What was focused on yesterday was highlighted back to last season, where if it wasn't for us taking the series both in New York and in Cincinnati against the Mets, we wouldn't have walked out of September as a wild card contender. So, sure, the Mets aren't playing great baseball, I'll tell you that. But these series are still very important. We're coming back home this weekend to host the Atlanta Braves, and the Atlanta Braves are in the best in their division. They're probably one of the better teams in all of baseball, especially in the National League. We are shifting our attention now. Every series matters, because we could find ourselves in a situation where if we don't win a series, it may result in us, in a chance for us at a postseason if we are contenders in September. Now, there's still a lot of baseball left to be played for sure, but it starts now, right? Winning the simple games, the simple series that we must win. Let's not forget, we still have 3 games back at home against Philadelphia. We haven't even touched nearly any West Coast teams in the Dodgers or Padres, which they are on fire. We haven't played the Yankees yet. We haven't played the Blue Jays yet. We won't see them until the end of the season. We haven't played a handful of teams that are successful. The Athletics we haven't played. And then you look at the National League itself, and you think about Nationals who are grinding their way through. You look at the Braves, who we have 6 games with, Philadelphia, who has 3 more, and let's not mention that right now the wild card is shaping up. Right now it's the Padres, Cardinals, Diamondbacks, Cubs, Reds are following, Pirates are following. So every team in the National League Central are right within a game or 2 of a position for a postseason spot. Now, I know that's a lot early to say in the month of May, but you start treading down below. Nationals are 2 games back. The Phillies are 2.5 games back. The Marlins are 4 games back. A series that we'll get into here in a moment tells a lot. A series can change the narrative of what this division looks like. So it is very important that this team to take every series as needed. Tonight, the Cincinnati Reds, 28 and 25, fourth in the NL Central, will go up against the New York Mets, 22 and 32, fifth in the NL Central. The Reds will have right-handed pitcher Chase Burns on the mound. He's 6-1 with a 1.83 ERA. Let me double check for you because last time I checked, the Mets don't have a pitcher announced yet. That was this morning. Let me see if that has changed. It may have changed. Yeah, still nothing yet been announced for the New York Mets for opponent wise. But first pitch is at 7:15. You could watch the game on Reds TV or tune into it WLW 700. All right, let's take a look at the National League. What has gone on over the National League Central over the weekend? We'll start off here against the Houston Astros, who swept the Cubs at Wrigley Field, taking 3-0, shutting them out back on Saturday. The Blue Jays were hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates. They took 2 out of 3. The Pirates won on Sunday. 4-1 was the final score. And the Dodgers visit the Milwaukee Brewers, and they took 2 out of 3 over the weekend, winning on Saturday and Sunday. Yesterday, on Memorial Day, the Pirates beat the Cubs 2-1, while the Brewers beat the Cardinals 5-1. Don't you love NL Central games that are competing against each other? Milwaukee's out in a 2.5-game lead over the Central, followed by the Cardinals, Cubs, Reds, and Pirates. The Brewers are playing 7-3 baseball, while the Cardinals are 5-5. The Cubs are 1-9 on a 9-game losing streak. You just think about it. Earlier this month, the Cubs seemed like they couldn't win no matter what, or lose no matter what. And now the narrative has changed. They're in the middle of the division. 6-4 the Reds over the last 10 games, and 4-6 for the Pirates over the last 10 games. Right? The best record is 31-20, and the worst record is 28-26. Still winning division. Pirates are just 4.5 games back of the division. Look at today's games. Tonight at 6:40, the Cubs take on the Pirates in Game 2 of a 4-game series. And then the Cardinals take on the Brewers in Game 2 of a 3-game series. You check out MLB.com for more information. All right, let's run and brief through. I know we kind of just covered this here, but the Padres and D-backs currently have the wild card spots, followed by the Cardinals, who have the middle spots. The Cubs, Reds, and Pirates are out on the outside looking in, all within a game and a half from a wild card spot. You also have the National Phillies, Marlins, Mets, Giants, and Rockies. Rockies are 26-35, 10 out of the third spot, wild card position. The Mets, who are taking on the Reds, are just 7.5 games back of the NL Central. All right, what's going on down on the farm? Let's take a look at the Louisville Bats, who are 28-22. They just got off of a slow series where they only took 2 out of 5. The game yesterday or Sunday was canceled due to rain against the Columbus Clippers just up north, the Cleveland Guardians AAA affiliates. Well, the Bats are 5-5 over the last 10 games, and they are on a 1-game losing streak. They're in third place of the International League West Division, and they are going to be getting ready to take on St. Paul Saints at home beginning tonight. The Minnesota Twins AAA affiliates are 25-25. They are 4-6 over the last 10 games, on a 2-game winning streak, taking 2 out of 4 against the Omaha Storm Chasers last week. They are in 7th place of the International League West, and they are 12-9 on the road, while the Bats are 14-13. Down in Double-A, we see the Chattanooga Lookouts, who are 25-20. They took 2 out of 5. They took 2 out of 6, over the Rocket City Trash Pandas, the Angels AA affiliates of last week. The Lookouts are 3-7 over the last 10 with a 1-game losing streak. They are in first place of the Southern League North Division. They get ready to take on the Knoxville Smokies, the AA affiliates to the Chicago Cubs, who are 22-22, 3-7 over the last 10 games. On 2-game losing streak, they took 1 out of 6. They were 1-6 against the series against the Montgomery Biscuits last week. The Smokies are in third place of the South League, the Southern League South, and their road trip so far this season are 9-9, while the homestands for the Lookouts are 8-10. Then we visit the High A Dayton Dragons, 25-20. They split the series against the Fort Wayne Tin Caps. The High A affiliates to the San Diego Padres. They are 3-3 in that series last week. The Dragons are 6-4 over the last 10 games, 1-game losing streak. They are in second place in the Midwest League East. They are getting ready to take on a tough battle against the High A Dodgers affiliates, the Great Lake Loons, beginning today at home. They are 27-16, and they just got done taking 2 out of a 5-game series where they had to cancel Sunday's game due to weather against the Wisconsin Timber Rattles, who are in the Great Lake Loons are in first place of the Midwest League East. They are 11-6 on the road as the Dragons are 9-9 at home. So in AAA, we are about to take on the 7th place Saints. The big battle is going to be the High A between the Dragons and the Loons, the Dodgers High A affiliates here. They are in first place. That'll be battle of the first place division. That is your news down on the farm. All right, Big 12 Conference Tournament action wrapped up over the weekend. And we saw, let's get to it. On Friday, we saw Oklahoma State beat UCF 12-6. We saw Kansas beat Baylor 8-7. We saw West Virginia defeat K-State 4-2, and Cincinnati lose to Arizona State 10-2. Then on Friday, on May 22nd, we saw Kansas State take on Oklahoma State 9-2 was the final score. And then Arizona loses to West Virginia 7-3. And then in the championships on Saturday, we saw Kansas shut out West Virginia 9-0. Congratulations to Kansas for winning the Big 12 tournament. Well, that may have happened. But the NCAA tournament begins this weekend, and we have found our UC baseball team who gets the second seed in the Starkville Regionals. Their first game will be this Friday on the 29th against Louisiana, which I think is pretty cool. Let me get to Bearcats baseball. Bearcats baseball moved out to a 37-20 record. They have moved to 1-1 at neutral locations after losing to Arizona State. Their first game is against the Louisiana Regional. It's a Reagan's Cajuns. But let's get to the NCAA bracket here as we have. I'm going to read it here. We have by conference. In the Southeast, we have 12 teams: Alabama, Arkansas, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Oklahoma, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Texas A&M. In the Atlantic Coast, we have Boston College, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Miami, Florida, NC State, North Carolina, Virginia Tech, and Wake Forest. In the Big 12, we have Arizona State, Cincinnati, Kansas, Oklahoma State, UCF, and West Virginia. In the Sun Belt, we have Coastal Carolina, Louisiana, Southern Mississippi, Texas State, and Troy. In the Big 10, we got Nebraska, Oregon, Southern California, UCLA. In Conference USA, we have Jackson State, Liberty, and Missouri State. In the Big West, we have Cal Poly and UC Santa Barbara. In the American East, we have Binghamton. In American, we have East Carolina and USASUN. We have Lipscomb. We have VCU in Atlantic 10. Big East St. John's. South, we have the USC Upstate, Northwestern Coastal, Horizon in Milwaukee, Yale and Ivy, Atlantic is Ryder, NIU and Mid American, Missouri Valley and UIC. Mountain West, we have Washington State. Northwest, we have LIU. Ohio Valley, we have Little Rock. Holy Cross and Patriot. Southern is the Citadel. Excuse me. We have the Lamar University in Southland. CWAC is Alabama State. Summit is South Dakota State. St. Mary's in California is the West Coast. West Athletic is Tarleton State, and Oregon State and Independence. That's a lot. All games or Eastern Standard Time begins Friday, and we'll get to that a little bit later. You catch a lot of it on ESPN Plus, ESPNU, SEN. We have ACCN. And that's pretty much it from my understanding. If I miss one, we'll get confirmation later with this week. So stay tuned for NCAA tournament brackets and playoffs. Alrighty, we head over to our NBA playoffs here on Friday. The Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Spurs 123 to 108. Then on Saturday, the Knicks beat the Cavaliers 121 to 108. On Sunday, the Spurs beat the Thunders 103 to 92. And on Monday, the Knicks beat the Cavaliers 130 to 93. The Knicks sweep the Cavaliers in a 4-game series, or best of 7 series, taking 4 out of nothing. Tonight, we will see the San Antonio Spurs take on the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off is at 8:30 on NBC. The series is tied at 2 apiece. You can check that game out, that information out on CBSSports.com. Over in the NHL, on Friday, the Golden Knights beat the Avalanche 3-1. On Saturday, the Hurricanes beat the Canadiens 3-2 in overtime. On Sunday, the Golden Knights beat the Avalanche 5-3. And last night, the Hurricanes also beat the Canadiens on the road in overtime 3-2. Excuse me. Tonight, we'll see the Avalanche take on the Golden Knights. The Golden Knights are out front 3-0 in their best of 7 series. Puck drops at 9 p.m. available on ESPN. Carolina has a 2-1 lead over Montreal. Alrighty. Let's get to your other news and sports update. That's right. Over in MLS soccer, we saw FC Cincinnati on Saturday beat Orlando City. Final score 6-2. MLS takes a break to ahead of the FIFA World Cup that begins next month. Other MLS news and FIFA World Cup news: Lionel Messi exits Sunday's game between Miami and Philadelphia, holding his left hamstring in the 73rd minute. Now, Miami went on to beat Philadelphia 6-4 was the final score, but the results show in a temporary evaluation that Messi is suffering from a muscle fatigue in his left hamstring, could miss a little bit of the World Cup as he represents Argentina. 38-year-old attempts to go back-to-back in the World Cups this season. Argentina's first game is coming up our way on June 16th and against Algeria. They do have a couple exhibitions in the meantime on January 6th and January 9th. This could lead into a couple of, who knows, maybe he'll be out for a length of time. Hopefully he doesn't get a chance to miss too much of the World Cup opportunities as well. But that's what happened. He dealt with a lot of injuries throughout his career. So that is your soccer news. Take a look at what's going on with the Cincinnati Bengals. They declined the option of Murphy's fifth-year option that was worth up to $15 million. Miles Murphy, the 28th overall pick, has had 92 tackles, about 17 quarterback hits, 10 tackles for losses, 8.5 sacks, and 47 games throughout his career. In the 2025 season with the Bengals, he only recorded 5.5 sacks, 10 quarterback hits per losses, 6 tackles for losses in 17 games. He's been a very big asset for the Bengals on the defensive front line. But the understanding is that the Bengals have done their due diligence, picked up a whole bunch of players, spent a whole bunch of money, at least according to the Bengals, right? And they're just not going to be able to pick up the fifth option for Miles Murphy. No hard feelings from either party, comes to a neutral arrangement, and it kind of figures, kind of shows. And so great sportsmanship here. As a fan, I'm a little bit disappointed to see this kind of unravel and take place. I like Miles Murphy, but you know, um, things happen. This is a short term gain, hopefully to win now. It would only be option to see what the Bengals will look like next year if we don't win now. So Miles Murphy, he's gonna kind of button up. He's gonna get ready for the season. Don't forget, he has a lot to prove. You think about this. Either the Bengals can offer him a contract at some point, extending him, or he could be hitting a free agent market. He could also be traded. But for him, putting up some really good numbers, staying healthy, playing, helping your team win, I believe is the best way to give yourself the chance of winning, of getting a good paycheck next year and or going to a good team as well. So just because he declines the fifth, the Bengals decline the fifth-year option, kind of still stay hopes on it. But I love the attitude. I love the enthusiasm for Murphy heading into this year, despite not picking up the fifth-year option. All right. Earlier this week, we learned that Fernando Tatis Jr. lost a lawsuit against the big league advance who could and it could impact Ellie De La Cruz at some point. Well, Fernando Tatis Cruz was in a lawsuit with Big Leagues Advance. Big Leagues Advance is for minor league players, giving them loans of a large amount while they play through the minor leagues. They could use it for travel expenses, for gear, for private trainers, for food, for better living as they work their way through the minor leagues. And if they make it to the big leagues, their contracts usually negotiate, hey, you're not only going to pay us back, but you're going to pay us back with interest. And under Tatis Jr.'s contract, Big League Advance loaned him $2 million under the condition that once he made it to the major leagues, that he'd pay back that money plus 10% interest, which turned into about, I think, $34 million. Well, the law, some way, shape, or form, a lawsuit kind of develops, and he ends up losing. Well, is the same thing. Big League Advance has over 700 loans to players. It's kind of a big deal. They gamble because hey, we're going to give you so much money. If you become a big league talent, you make it to the major leagues, we collect. If you don't, then we don't collect, right? It's like kind of like attorneys. But for Ellie De La Cruz, he has the same, yeah, he has a contract with the Big League Advance. Now, does it, this Tatis losing his lawsuit can open up other players losing lawsuits as well. Now, none of this is certain that Ellie De La Cruz is going to lose anything, but whatever his fine agreement is with Big League Advance is not disclosed yet. So it could play a factor in the upcoming future. All right, we also saw a MLB's first no-hitter since in 629 days. Yes. Comes in yesterday's Memorial Day game between the Astros and Texas, where the Astros win 9-0 An accumulation of three Astros pitchers, including Tatsuya Imaya, Steven Okert, and MLB debut of Alimber Sinte, pitched a combined no-hitter, the sole 22nd of all time. And the last time the Astros pitched a no-hitter, they shut out the Mariners 9-0. And that was back on August 3rd of 2019. The last time that a no-hitter was hit prior to to yesterday was the Cubs and Pirates game, where the Cubs won 9-4, or when the Cubs won, it was back on September 4th, 2024, where Shota Imanaga plus two other relievers combined to the year. Last year was the first year since 2005 a no-hitter was not thrown. So, some rare MLB news here. Also want to congratulate Felix Rosenqvist, who edges David Malukas in the photo finish of the Indy 500, 110th win, and he ends up winning. All right, so I want to get to WWE to finish off our show. I'm going to save what happened on Raw to tomorrow and other news, because I just want to kind of leave you off with what we're looking ahead this Sunday, Clash in Italy, that will take place at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here's what the match card to today has been focused on. We see the WWE Championship, Gunther versus Cody Rhodes. The World Heavyweight Championship match being fought in a tribal combat, Jacob Fatu versus Roman Reigns. We see the WWE Women's Championship, Jade Cargill take on Rhea Ripley. We see the Women's Intercontinental Championship, Sol Ruka taking on Becky Lynch as a result from last Saturday night main event. And we see the rematch from WrestleMania where Brock Lesnar takes on Oba Femi. Now, I'll tell you this. We're going to return tomorrow, talk about Raw and how the final sets of Brock Lesnar and Oba, and then the tribal combat has really edged this PLE coming up on Sunday. The questions I'm asking myself, because apparently this is the new trend, and I saw reports, but I'm not confident that is matched and set. But who's going to be in? It's going to be two matches on ESPN in the first hour, and then the final three matches going to take place on ESPN Unlimited. So the latest report that I heard was the WWE Championship and the World Heavyweight Championship was going to be taking place in the first hour. Is that true? I don't know. We'll have to confirm it later this week. But what match are you guys looking forward to this weekend as Clash in Italy? And we are on the road to SummerSlam. Think about it. Just about maybe 2.5 months away. I'm not sure on the day. I think it was like August, right? August something. But we are on the road to SummerSlam. Let's look at the road to SummerSlam and how we get there. So, plus Logan Paul announces the return of the King and Queen of the Ring tournament, which, if we know, the winners of those tournaments get a title shot at WrestleMania. So there you go. A lot of stuff we covered in the first hour. I want to appreciate everyone for tuning in. Means a lot. Please hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Have those notifications on so you don't miss a single episode. Also, follow us on our Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram page. You can also tune in to us on anywhere you get your audio platforms. Spotify, iHeartRadio, Spreaker, Apple, Google Podcasts. If it's a podcasting station, we are on there. Just search TNC Sports Talk. And we will be back again tomorrow, resuming our normal programs, noon to 1. I want to say thank you once again for tuning in. This is all the time I have for you guys today. So thank you guys for tuning in to the TNC Sports Talk. My name is Justin. Until tomorrow, you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.